let me just kind of join the dots here for you folks. There's a link down in the description already. I put it in there when I created this stream for the actual legislation. So they're looking for consultation on that legislation. So if you're an Aussie and you're watching this, you can have a checkers of that and you can see exactly where that is. But we have that lady there on the screen, Ed. She was the communications minister, this woman here that you just saw at the press conference. But there's another person that kind of instigated all of this who comes from the e-safety commissioner of Australia. She used to actually work at Twitter, and she also is a member of none other than the World Economic Forum. So
this is cute.
No shit, right? don't be fooled by Justin Trudeau's good looks and his charisma. He's a totalitarian dictator, no better than Pablo Escobar in running a drug cartel. No better than I don't know the Ayatollah in Iran. These people just want to hold on to power at all costs, and they'll do anything that they can to hold on to the power that they've got, and they'll do everything humanly possible to shut you up. It is just unbelievable. And it's hard to believe that that's happening in Australia. It's hard to believe that these people are trying to implement legislation that will silence free companies. These companies are out there operating in the world, providing services. They're doing business in a legitimate way, and they're trying to stop the way that they actually do business in the name of safety. Because when something is safe, when the government is saying that there's an emergency, and there's a perpetual emergency about mis and disinformation, I am then forced to give you some of my rights. And the more rights that I give to you as an individual to the government, the more I'm handing over to you, the more you're going to take. And then you have this many rights now, and then you hand them over, and you take away my everything from what I can say to what I can see to what my medical autonomy is that I put in my body. But what you'll never do is, for me personally, and you're 100% right, Ed, when you say that they can control your mind, because the zombies here in Australia did everything that the Australian government told them to do. And I'm just going to call it out. I'll die on this hill all day long. I'll call it out. They're just so unbelievably trusting of people that just don't care about you. They do not care about you. They don't see you. They're not a servant of you. You are a subject of theirs. They're elected by us, but the reality is they never, ever do anything on our behalf. They'll pretend like they do something on our behalf, but the reality is they are just liars, and they're trying to take away your freedom and your autonomy at every moment of the day. And I'll get off my high horse here in a sec. I saw Anthony Albanese say that the voice is something that will bring Australians together. But I've never seen anything, and I'm 46 years old, I've never seen anything in Australian history, and I've been an avid follower of Australian politics my whole adult life, and I've always been into this stuff, but I've never seen anything that's divided Australia more. And he says it will bring Australia together. But it didn't bring Australia together because it's divided right down the centre. And to your point, you talk about it in American politics all the time, Ed, that American politics is so divisive, it's tribal. One side says this, the other side says that. And there's a very small minority in the middle that make the decisions about if it goes left or it goes right, if it's red or it's blue. And the same would be true here about the voice. The Prime Minister of Australia, the political leadership of Australia have divided Australia down the middle. But the damage has been done. And this is the problem that I've got with all of this, is the damage has already been done with this ACMA regulation, where the Ministry of Truth comes out and says that they want to censor you. They say that they want to quiet you. And even if that legislation didn't get up and it didn't pass, or if it didn't really affect me as an individual, the point is they've done it. Even if the voice to Parliament doesn't get up, the point is you've done it and you've divided Australians. And now Australians are never going to look at each other the same. And the trust in government is gone. The public's trust in your ability to do what it is that you say you're going to do, to act on our behalf and in our best interest, is completely and totally gone.
Is it?
I think the next election will prove that. Yes.
Okay.
But I could be completely wrong. I could be misjudging it completely.
We've got it on tape. I mean, you,
there it is. You make these stock market predictions that always come through. I'm going to make a political one.
Yeah, there you go. Look, good. I'm glad you have an opinion. As long as we have it on tape, so we can come back to it.
So we can come back and see how wrong I was. I've never been so wrong about so many things in all my life, man.
Because listen, I mean, look at the John Fetterman election. How the hell? Look at the Biden-Trump election. How the hell? You would think, haven't you learned your lesson? When is enough enough? And California, for crying out loud, for generations, they keep electing the same people doing the same bad stuff, but they keep electing them.
But the difference between American politics and Australian politics is it's not compulsory for you guys to vote. So the people that vote, the people that are winning these elections are just able to rally more people to come out behind their cause. In Australia, everyone has to vote. But why on earth did everybody vote for Daniel Andrews? Anything was better than Scott Morrison. I understand why Australians voted for Anthony Albanese. Give Labor a go. All right, let's see.
I'll be in the record. I think compulsory voting is evil. I don't think.
Oh, you don't like it?
No, I think it's very anti-democratic. But ironically, because
it's the irony of it, right?
Right, because because not voting is a kind of a vote.
Yes.
You're voting. You don't have anything to do with the system. You don't believe in any of these guys. You don't trust any of these guys. It is a form of protest. So people should have the right not to vote. It's like, no, you have to participate in society. You want to be a hermit out in the backwoods of Australia? No,
yes.
You got to come in.
Well, you still have to vote, pal.
That's
if
right.
you don't vote, we're going to fine you.
That's right. You still got to come to town every 4 years. And
I'm going to put the postal vote in and make it happen that way as well. My question to you, Ed, is that I wonder personally, where does this all end? And we can see where this is going. We can kind of if I look up and out, I can see Xi Jinping and totalitarian China. And then I see Kim Jong-un across the border in North Korea. And what I see in Kim Jong-un is they think that Kim Jong-un is a god, is a deity. He's a living deity in their culture. And his family are a family of gods. And they worship him as if he was God. That is the religion. Is the Kim Jong-un.
Do they though? I mean,
no, they do. That's the propaganda that they put out.
Yeah,
right? So
yeah. I think that if that was actually a democracy one day, I don't think you would get through the first round.
No, of course not. But what I'm saying is that family and that dynasty, if you like, has positioned themselves as the gods and the deities of their country. Xi Jinping is not that. Xi Jinping is a dictatorial ruler who does whatever he wants. There's only 1 million members of the Communist Party or whatever it is. No, sorry, 10 million members of the Communist Party, but there's 1 billion Chinese people or some shit like that. So it's a very small percentage of the Chinese population that are actually card-carrying members of the CCP. But he rules that country as if he was like a mobster, gangster boss. He, stomps out all the corruption and he has the final say. He's the don of the family, so to speak. And here in Australia, that communications minister thinks that she is the Xi Jinping and the Kim Jong-un of Australia. She wants that dictatorial power that's given to her through legislation to say what you can and can't say, because that's what they do in China. But she also wants to be seen as the god, as the deity. That's my view. That's how her attitude and her persona comes off. You think that you are the Kim Jong-un and the living deity of Australia, but nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. You are just a disgusting, abhorrent human being trying to silence people, which I believe she should be silenced completely. She should be completely and totally silenced and removed from the political scene and cast into the backwater of Australian society, because she'll be the one that's responsible for the destruction of society if she stamps out free speech. If I'm suddenly not allowed to go on YouTube and say these things, and I get in trouble for saying these things, she'll be personally responsible for the destruction of Australian society, because our society will cease to exist as it was.
Okay, so the question becomes, why do people put up with her, with the idea of her?
So the answer to that question, it validates 100% of what I've been saying, is that no politician in any country on planet Earth serves you as a constituent.
Right.
You vote for somebody in under the premise and the idea that they're going to work for you and serve you as a member of the public because you're the one that elected them. But the reality is the opposite. They don't serve you. You are a subject of theirs, and you'll do as you're told. Otherwise, you'll be off to the gulag, digital and physical gulag.
Yeah. Well, as you've heard me say several times, my theory is that we can attribute all of our problems in society down to two things: bad parenting and a really bad school system.
Yeah.
The leftists have been, at least in America, they've been in control of our school system for generations now. They've been indoctrinating our children for an awful long time. So their idea of what is acceptable behavior has been warped. That's why the values of America are really threatened, because of a really poor educational system and really bad, passing down from generation to generation of what makes America great. And every society is essentially on a sliding scale between true democracy on the one end and dictatorship, communism on the other end, right? And along the way, societies will go up and down that scale. And right now, we are sliding toward the other end of that scale, where dictums are accepted more and more by the public. That comes through generational change. The poor education system and bad parenting, and what people are willing to accept. The pain people are willing to endure for the sake of the tribe, for the sake of the ideology. And got to give the communists credit. They've made a lot of inroads in our country. Unfortunately,
they've been successful in infiltrating Australian politics, American politics on the left. Here's a question that I don't know the answer to, but it's not a rhetorical question. So if I wanted to push back against this so-called draft legislation that they're creating to do all of these things, what would I need to do? Well, I could go to that website, I could register my complaint, I could look at my feedback, and there'd be someone in government that goes, hey, boss, to that lady, we've got some feedback here, here's the concerns, here's what we do, and there's people filtering through that legislation. But the reality is they'll take on board everything that you say, and they'll go and do whatever they want anyway. Because no one in their right mind wants to censor free speech. No one in their right mind wants to do that. But the people that believe that, this is my belief, are the ones on the right and in the center that form part of the silent majority. And the silent majority rarely speak out, but we have to speak out. Otherwise, we're no longer going to be able to speak out. In Perth, earlier in the week, there was some people that have been protesting out the front of the governor's house, and what they want is a new election. They're calling for a new election. And they're saying, hey, and so these people turn up periodically throughout the day and they protest, they stand out the front, they hold banners. And most of them are kind of like older people. They're in their like late 50s and 60s. They're not like Antifa freaks running around with black balaclavas and throwing Molotov cocktails at the governor's house. They're standing out the front protesting. And the police came along and said, you can no longer protest here.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to do that.
Of course.
And they've taken people's ability away to assemble. And if you want to conduct a protest and go and assemble in Western Australia now, you have to fill in all the application forms and do that. And somebody has to be in charge of it. Somebody has to put their name to it. But part of the conditions of doing the protest and doing that is if something goes wrong as a result of the protest, that person with their name on the document has to pay for everything. So if somebody tramples a garden or pulls down a sign, or it gets a bit kind of ugly and it gets people are carrying on, then that individual with their name on the actual document is forced to pay.
Sure.
If you don't pay the fines, you don't pay for that, you're going to be hauled off to jail. So the government has taken your ability away to protest and your right of assembly to protest by using all of these totalitarian methods. But the people that want to go and protest, the ones on the right, now can no longer do it. So we have to find new ways of doing that. And the new way of doing that is online, and creating online communities to come back and to talk to your local members and your politicians to do that. But now the government is trying to get rid of that as well. So
okay.
where does this end? Where does it end?
Okay. Yeah. Personally, I don't think we need new ways of getting the word out. I think we need our own propaganda machine. The socialists,
exactly.
they have a
I agree.
really good marketing campaign, right? Everything's for free. If you want to, we'll give you everything for free. Universal
Problem is
basic income,
they can shut our
healthcare.
propaganda machine down here on YouTube. That's the problem. So we have to go to places where they can't encroach upon us. And they can't stop us.
But people of like minds can still find ways of finding people that they believe. The question is, the thing with the conservatives and traditionalists is they tend to be agreeable people. What the hell, man? Live your life. Freedom.
Don't worry about that legislation. It'll be fine.
Yeah. That whatever. Whereas the leftists, they are not agreeable people. They're loud and they make noise, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? The non-agreeable people tend to get their way because the agreeable people, they got lives to live. Whatever, man. So we're kind of like at a built-in disadvantage there, in that I would rather not spend my time, picketing tuck bathing suits outside of Target every day. I got,
of course, yeah.
I got things to do, and so Target takes that as a green light to do more of that stuff, right? And so the leftists, they'll push and push it. They'll push it to see what they can get away with. Can we get away with having transgender men competing against women in sports? Can we get away with that? Oh, come on, we can't possibly get away. Let's give it a try, see what happens. And then one day we find ourselves here. Hey, do you think we can get away with having transgender men doing twerking performances in front of our kindergartens?
Yes, we can.
Oh, there's no way we get away with that. Hey, let's try it. And so the more that we do not push back, the more they keep pushing, right? So we have to push back. Now there is some good science here. In this Bud Light controversy, people stopped buying the beers. During the Target controversy, people stopped going to Target. So now these corporations, on the one hand, they got bigger ambitions. They're willing to lose $10 billion in revenues because they want that precious ESG money, coming in. They want those precious ESG institutional investors, sending, their money. So they're willing to, forego taking care of their customers, catering to the customers, because they're catering to the big guy in Switzerland. So that's the real objective. But people are they are pushing back in that way. So there are little glimmers of hope out there that people are starting to stand up for the traditional values. You're seeing parents showing up at PTA meetings and at city council meetings complaining about the CRT garbage being brought into the school system.
Yeah, they're pushing back.
They're pushing back. Now they're being labeled as domestic terrorists for doing that. By our own FBI. Yeah,
the guy was black, man. What are you calling him that for?
yeah, it doesn't matter. But so there are glimmers of hope out there that the silent majority, and I do believe that America is essentially a center-right country. All right, but the loud people are all on the left. And the left owns the media, so that's the drumbeat we get every day about this stupid stuff that's happening. And do the people show up at elections? Well, I know in Australia, of course, if you show up at elections, they got to show up at elections.
And you still vote for these idiots on the left.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
So what the
Stop
hell?
it. Cut it out. For heaven's sake, there is alternatives out there. Yesterday I'll close out the show here today with this, Ed, and one of the things that I was thinking, was how can I get more politically active? I don't want to be a politician. I just wouldn't fit in as a tiny cog in a giant machine there. I don't think I could make much difference, but I think I can rally more people and make more of a difference on the outside of politics. So I spent a couple of hours yesterday in a semi-day off looking at all of the Australian political parties that are out there. And there's not as many as you think. I think there's some 22 or something registered Australian political parties. Not many.
22? That's not many? 22?
Well,
how does anyone get elected?
Well, you've got Labor, Liberal, Nationals, Greens. They're the four big parties. And then you've got all the periphery ones, right? You've got Shooters, Hunters, and Farmers Party. And then you've got Legalised Cannabis Party and Christian Party. And there's a series of them like this.
Fuck.
And when you see our ballot papers, Ed, I'll find a picture for you. The ballot papers are like 1.5 meters long. And then you either vote above the line or vote below the line. And it's no wonder that Labor, Liberal, Greens, and the Nationals continue to win elections, is because when you look at the way that you vote, you go, it's compulsory for me to vote. I rock in there, someone shoves some shit in my hand, I look at how to vote. Who's that Liberal guy? Yeah, fuck, just put that guy in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. And then above and below the line, you can either mark one box above the line or all the boxes below. See, I can't even remember. I've voted so many times in my life, but I still can't remember how many boxes do you mark above the line and then below the line. Everyone's like, So part of the problem that we have here in Australia is the confusion and the discourse in relation to that. And that's a problem with the government, right? The government hasn't actually explained to you exactly how to do that. But they have done a pretty, in their defense, they have done a pretty good job of saying, this is how you do it. The way the preferences work, it's not what you think. Here's how to, there's a lot of information out there, but it's up to the individual to actually consume that information and do something with it. And most people are like, what do I care about politics, man? Who gives a fuck? Don't pay attention to it. But you have to start paying attention, because otherwise we're going to end up with Xi Jinping and the communication minister who thinks she's a living deity to do whatever she wants. That's why you have to pay attention.
Look, that's your fucking problem, man. Your energy is too dispersed.
Ed's going to solve the problem here for us all.
I'm going to solve the problem here. Get that down to 4 parties, okay?
Well, it really is 4 parties when you think about it.
Politics is all about marketing to begin with, right?
Yes, 100%.
Whoever the best marketer, is going to win. And
I think that's how we can solve that problem in Australia. I think that's how we can solve the problem of the major parties winning. And it's got nothing to do with money. It's got to do with getting the message to the right people at the right time to make sure it resonates with them.
Well, that, and if you have so many options to choose between, and just one of those guys stands out just enough, their propaganda is just,
and that's marketing.
They're in. So there's very little room for real competition in that environment, because one group is obviously some guy's going to be better than all the others in their marketing, and that's the guy who's going to get in. It's the same thing in England, right? They have all their parties. I think, and I think hey, Polly, shout out to Polly there, Polly in the Netherlands. Same thing in the Netherlands. Now, shout out to the Netherlands, the farmers. They had a surprise win, right?
They did. They absolutely did. Yeah.
Okay. And so there are little glimmers of hope around the world where people voted, the right way. I don't know how much difference that's going to make, because there's still, the European Union is still full on trying to confiscate all the farms.
That's the most corrupt organization on planet Earth, man.
Yeah. So but at least the people, at least, symbolically made their voices heard that, hey, we don't like this. I don't know. But, there's so many parties to choose from that nobody has any real authority, I think, over that lasts very long. And don't all these countries also have these, confidence vote of confidence along the way, where
no confidence and
So once you get in, you might not even be in for the full term, because someone's going to complain enough, and then they can put up so you're constantly getting reelected, and there's always a new guy. You don't get a chance for one guy to float to the top. Italy voted that conservative woman, right? So there are little pockets of hope around the world.
To your point about marketing, I think what Australian politicians have, the problem that they have, is a recognition problem, which is marketing, of course. But when I go to vote and I go to the local primary school to vote, there's pictures of different people there on the fence, or whatever party they are, and there's some members of parties wearing different coloured t-shirts handing out things, they're how to vote cards. If you want to vote for the Greens, here's how you vote for the Greens. If you want to vote for Labor, here's how you vote for Labor. So they're handing me the how to vote card to do that, because I kind of heard something on the periphery about, I like that Greens policy, let me vote for that Greenie guy, that looks good to me. And I don't know what you can do to improve their recognition like that, because in their current circumstance, it's not working. But I do have several ideas how to solve that problem for the minor parties, and how to compete at scale with these larger political parties that have got really deep pockets. Because the reason that the smaller parties can't compete with Labor, Liberal, Greens, and Nationals and all of those other parties is because they don't have the budgets. But you don't need budgets. The budget is irrelevant. You don't need millions of dollars to advertise. You need some money to advertise, and they do have that, but you don't need millions of dollars. What you need is policies that people can get behind, and a way to get those policies in front of the right people at the right time, in the right seats, that you can unhinge the person that's actually there. So these smaller minor parties are lacking. You guys have it really good in America, where you've got these political strategists, and these people get paid literally millions of dollars to get these politicians elected, because all the lobbyists are getting all the money to do this, to make this happen. So the way that your system works is far better from a marketing perspective and a branding perspective. And we can learn a lot about that from you guys in America, and apply some of that here in Australia to unseat a lot of these idiot politicians, like this communications minister who thinks she's a living deity. And, my mission has to be in the next couple of months to tell as many human beings as fast as possible that whatever you do, go to that website, let's create a petition, let's get rid of that. We can't have people like that in charge trying to censor us. We can't. You can't, whether that's me as an individual, or Meta or Twitter or YouTube, you can't have a government censoring people. You can't. You can't do that. It won't work.
Well, as far as getting obscure people elected, have you ever thought about bribes? That's one.
That's political lobbying. The cronyism of the state there in America. There's a lot to learn.
But I do have one solution for those minor parties out there: is name recognition.
That's exactly right. That's what you call it in American politics, right?
There you go.
It's not just brand; it's name recognition.
That's right.
I want to vote for that guy because I heard about this policy, and those policies are connected to that person.
Well, not even that. Right. So it's even simpler than that. Find a likable Hugh Jackman or Chris Hemsworth. Recruit those guys to run. People that people that are likable, right? And that they like. I don't care what his policy is. I'll vote for him. So you just got to find someone who's likable.
That's what they did about Joe Biden, man. That's why Donald Trump has such a hard time, because he's just not a nice person.
Biden was not likable.
Nobody knows what Biden was. He was in his basement the whole time, man.
No, he had bull. That was again down to the sliver, right? Just one after
literally,
the sliver.
literally right down to the wire.
And we'll say that for another, but no, that election was stolen. It was Trump did win.
But now you're going to get us cancelled in the
I
last
know.
5 minutes of the show,
Are we going to
cut that shit out?
Are we going to?